One arrogant reporter, one calm black woman, and one technical glitch that exposed the truth. What unfolded next would redefine who the real anchor was. The newsroom pulsed with a kind of chaos that only made sense to those who lived in it. Lights flickered above like restless stars, cameras shifted on metal stands, and voices collided in a storm of urgency. The scent of burnt coffee and tension hung in the air, the perfume of deadlines. Outside, afternoon sunlight streamed through tall glass panels, slicing across the polished floor where reporters rushed like clockwork, each step echoing ambition and fatigue. In the corner, Ava Johnson stood almost still, a quiet figure against the frenzy. The light caught the soft curls at the edge of her neat bun, the crease of her blazer, the clipboard pressed close to her chest. Her eyes followed everything. The flick of a cue card, the anxious tapping of a producer's pen, the glint of red from the live sign. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her calm was its own language. At the center of it all was Daniel Reed, charming, confident, and utterly sure of himself. His voice carried like it belonged to the airwaves. He rehearsed lines with polished certainty, his reflection grinning back from the studio glass. And still, beneath the glare of studio lights, the camera's gaze lingered on Ava, the quiet one nobody noticed. Not yet. The countdown echoed through the studio. Going live in 5, 4. The hum of anticipation thickened the air. Daniel adjusted his mic, smoothing his tie with practiced confidence. The glow of the studio lights kissed his face, painting him in that familiar sheen of authority. Around him, crew members scurried, cables coiled, monitors blinked. Every movement was a beat in the symphony of broadcast precision. Ava stepped forward quietly, her clipboard pressed close. Her voice was soft but certain. "Daniel, they've changed the—" He cut her off without even looking at her. "Not now. I know what I'm doing." The words landed like a slap wrapped in arrogance. The room fell still for a fraction of a second. One of the camera operators looked up, then quickly looked away. A young intern winced, pretending to rearrange papers. No one dared speak. Ava didn't flinch. She simply nodded once, stepping back into the edges of the frame, where people like her were meant to stay unseen. But the light caught her face for a brief moment. Calm, unshaken, almost serene. There was something in her eyes. Not hurt, not pride, something deeper. As if she already knew what the others didn't, that everything was about to change. The red light blinked on. Live. The newsroom fell into that sacred hush that comes only when the world is watching. Daniel straightened, voice smooth as silk. "Good afternoon, this is Daniel Reed with Channel 9 News." Then mid-sentence the teleprompter stuttered. Words froze mid-line. The screen went blank. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Then chaos ignited. Through the glass wall, the control room erupted. The producer shouted orders, waving her arms like she could will the machine back to life. Assistants scrambled, cords tangled, eyes wide with dread. But the live feed didn't cut. The audience was still watching. Daniel blinked at the frozen screen. His charm evaporated, replaced by the raw panic of a man stripped of his script. He tried to recover, fumbling for words, his voice cracking under the silence pressing in. Sweat glistened on his temple. And then, from the corner of the frame, Ava moved. Not hurriedly, gracefully. She stepped forward, calm against the storm. Her hand found a spare mic resting on the desk. She didn't ask permission. Didn't hesitate. The room seemed to hold its breath as she lifted it. There was a quiet certainty in her motion, the kind that only comes from someone who's been here before. Ava's voice slipped into the silence like sunlight through clouds, steady, warm, certain. "While technical issues delay our segment," she began, her tone effortless and grounded, "let's not forget why we're here, to tell stories that matter, stories that remind us who we are." Her words flowed without a cue, her rhythm natural, her presence magnetic. The trembling chaos of the room melted into stillness. The cameras stayed fixed on her, instinctively drawn to her composure. In the control room, the producer hesitated, then whispered, almost in awe, "Keep rolling." Daniel stood frozen beside her. The man who had moments ago owned the spotlight now looked smaller, lost in the glow that had shifted away from him. His cue cards hung uselessly at his side. Ava continued, weaving facts with empathy, turning what should have been disaster into something deeper, real journalism. The newsroom staff listened, some realizing for the first time who she truly was. Whispers followed. Isn't that Ava Johnson? Didn't she used to anchor for WCN? Yes. Years ago, she had been the name on air, until politics, prejudice, and closed doors silenced her voice. She had returned behind the scenes, not for fame, but because storytelling still called to her soul. And now, that voice had found its way back. Live. The red light above the camera dimmed, signaling the end of the broadcast, but the room didn't move. For a heartbeat, everyone just stared at Ava, the quiet woman who had just turned chaos into brilliance. Then the noise returned, not of panic this time, but awe. Phones buzzed. Notifications chimed. The control room erupted into gasps and laughter. Social media was already on fire. Who is she? The woman who saved the news. Give her the anchor chair! The comments flooded in faster than anyone could read. Viewers across the city were replaying her calm voice, her effortless command of the moment. The producer looked up from her screen, eyes wide with something close to reverence. For the first time, she didn't see a quiet assistant. She saw a journalist, the kind they didn't make anymore. Daniel approached, his usual confidence stripped down to sincerity. You were incredible, he said quietly, unable to meet her gaze at first. Ava smiled, not in pride, but in peace, as if she had simply returned to where she belonged. I just did what needed to be done, she replied. And somehow, everyone in that room knew. The broadcast hadn't just been saved, it had changed. A week later, the newsroom looked almost the same. The same polished floors, the same hum of equipment, the same restless energy that fed the pulse of live television. But something felt different. The air carried a quiet reverence now, a kind of pride that couldn't be spoken, only felt. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, spreading golden warmth across the anchor desk, where a new nameplate gleamed beneath the lights. Ava Johnson, lead anchor. She sat poised in her chair, posture steady, presence serene. Her reflection in the monitor showed not a woman stepping into the spotlight for the first time, but one reclaiming it. Technicians adjusted lights around her, murmuring with respect. Even Daniel, now working the field, offered a faint smile as he passed by. The countdown began again. In 5, 4, and for a moment, the room faded into stillness. Ava's fingers rested lightly on the desk. She took a quiet breath and whispered to herself, her voice barely above a hum. For everyone who's ever been silenced, your voice still matters. Then the red light blinked on. The broadcast began anew, but this time, it wasn't just news going live. It was justice. It was grace. It was her turn. True ability doesn't need validation. It reveals itself when the world least expects it.